It's been an eventful 15 months for our next guest here on Pro Football Talk Live at the league meetings in Arizona. He is entering his second season as general manager of the Green Bay Packers, Brian Gutekunst. Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Good. Am I allowed to call you that? Are we good enough friends yet?
Sure.
Goody?
Yeah.
Goody? Is that what they call you?
Goody. I like
Goody. Okay, it is. I like it.
It's been a long time. Yep. So.
And I butcher your last name regularly through the regular season.
Not regularly. All the time.
Yes.
That's all right.
Sorry.
I'm used to it by now, that's for sure.
Okay.
So, new head coach, a lot of changes, $56 million in signing bonus money that was allocated in free agency in the early days, if my math is correct, and it rarely is. Why this year so aggressive right out of the gates in free agency?
Yeah, I think each year you go through your process and you kind of have to you got to evaluate your team first, right? And so I think we just were in a situation where we felt we needed to do this to especially do our defense to give us a chance what we want to do this fall. So that was really it. We had some ability cap-wise to do it, and we thought it was something that our defense needed.
I mean, Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith, Adrian Amos. You guys really killed it in free agency. I know it's like quietly killed it.
Yeah.
How much conversation do you have? You talked about the defense with Mike Pettin as far as the vision of what you see the defense being.
Yeah, sure. Mike's been there. He's going into his second year, so obviously going through last year with him, understanding how he wants to play the game with our team. So obviously having that kind of knowledge moving forward, and obviously our coaches are involved a little bit with our free agency prep. But no, I think it was something that I think that it was just needed for our football team.
Right.
We needed to add some players. I was glad that we could add some that were still on the younger side that had the best footballs ahead of them.
Yeah.
And I think all these guys would be good locker room fits as well.
Yeah, what was it about their games that jumped? Because they're not like superstar names, and not household names. But me as a guy who's into X's and O's, I mean, Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith are players. Same with Adrian Amos.
Right.
What was it about them that made you guys pursue them so aggressively?
Yeah, I think we wanted to add some speed and explosiveness.
Yeah.
I think the reliability of those players as well. They've had a nice long career right now where they've played a lot of football, haven't missed much time.
Right.
And again, I think the most important thing for us was just that we think all three of those guys played their best football last season, and their best football should be ahead of them.
Yeah.
What would you say to those, Brian, who say that with free agency, if you sign guys right out of the gates, you're going to spend too much?
Mm-hmm. I think that's correct. More than likely that's right. I think, but it's really not about that for us. I think it's about our football team and how we're trying to improve our football team. I think you go through the process. You don't know what opportunities are going to present themselves, but these ones did. We thought they could help us, so we pulled the trigger.
So there was talks about Antonio Brown, Green Bay Packers, Le'Veon Bell. Were any of those things discussed in the back rooms up in Green Bay?
Certainly discussed. Don't know if they were really exactly what we were trying to do with our football team.
Right.
Those guys are great players, but they were, all the options were discussed. I mean, you talk about those things, kind of how it affects your football team, what it can do for you, and obviously with the hard salary cap, you only have so much you can do, and we're excited about what we did.
Yeah.
We had Bills GM Brandon Beane with us yesterday, and we asked him what, if anything, he does to construct his roster with an eye on the Patriots. Is there a team that you pay attention to as you put your players together that you feel like you need to be more cognizant of than any others?
No, I think you look at them all, and you look at the trends around the league and how teams that are successful, the successful teams, what they're doing, if they're doing things differently. So we certainly study those things, but there's not one particular team. Obviously, I've worked with a lot of guys that are running teams right now, and I obviously pay a lot of attention to what they do because we come from a similar process background, I don't think there's one thing. I think you study them all and try to see what the successful teams are doing, and if you can, steal anything from them, you obviously will.
I think a lot of people ask me because they know I love Aaron Rodgers, but they're, why didn't Green Bay sign more offensive weapons? And, my answer to them is, well, I think that they're telling you that they're kind of comfortable with the group. They have some young guys that are kind of coming up the ranks. Am I correct with that? Or please, if I'm wrong, tell me I'm an idiot.
No, I'm excited about some of our younger players on offense. I also think, obviously, we're at the beginning stages of kind of putting this thing together. There's still a lot of free agency left. There'll be, some other markets. Obviously, the draft's coming up as well. So, we're looking at every avenue to improve our football team. The beginning of free agency kind of was defensive heavy. That was a little bit by design. But as we move forward here, we'll certainly, look at the offense as well.
Right.
What would you think about the draft before free agency?
I think it's a pretty strong draft this year.
No. I mean, I'm saying to have the draft before free agency. What would you think if that would happen?
It's a good question. I'm kind of for almost, as soon as the college season's done, getting the medicals done and then drafting that next week,
Wow.
I just, obviously there's a ton of information through this time and pro days and combines and stuff, but, I've always thought it's what they do on tape, and that's always been the most important thing. But before free agency, I think you'd adjust some things and how you went about it, but
right.
It could work.
Why do you think then that there's just the obsession with going from campus to campus, having all these visits, all these workouts? Is it just we have the time, we have the resources, we may as well use them? And you think you could basically do a good draft without all of this stuff that we see from late February to late April?
Yeah, certainly the more information, the better, right? I mean, that it helps you, But at the same time, I think that some of us, if you do your work in the fall, right, maybe you're more prepared, you're ready to go, so maybe you'd have a little bit more advantage. I think the time gives the other teams time to catch up as well. So that's more of a competitive thing. But at the same time, I think that time is important. And if you have the time, you have to do your due diligence with these players to find out who they are, what they're made of, how they're wired. And so that's what we're doing now.
We're seeing kind of a new fad with some of these guys coming out in the draft, right? Quinnen Williams, Nick Bosa. I did my combine. I'm going to let my play speak for itself. I'm not going to do my pro day. Are you in favor of that? Do you think there's more to be gained by guys of that caliber doing something on their pro day?
Yeah, I think if you've done everything at the combine, if you've done all the testing and you feel good about it and you're not trying to improve those times, I think that's all you need.
Yeah.
I think obviously there's a risk involved for these players as the more they do. So for me, I believe if they've done everything at the combine, they've checked all the boxes, then they should be good.
Yeah, once the combine's done, you just want to get to know the person, right?
Correct, yeah.
And just see what they're like, football IQ.
And everybody looks at it different. Some teams really like to get their hands on them and work them out and in a one-on-one type situation, and that can be helpful. But for us, I think once the combine's done, if you've competed and you've done everything and you feel good about it, you're not trying to improve any particular testing, then you should be good.
And you're like in favor of, or I don't know, in favor. I just like to hear your thoughts because I know you know a lot about football, like Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey. Do you downgrade guys like that for not playing in their bowl game? Do you look at them and go, oh, they gave up on their team? I mean, what's the kind of the thoughts that go through your head?
I think the thing when those decisions are made, I think we want to talk to the player and kind of hear it from them.
Right.
What was their thought process there?
Right. Yeah.
At the same time, I think every player situation is different. Yeah. I think it's important what their reasons were behind it.
Right. Right.
What do you think the biggest challenge is going to be for your new head coach, Matt LaFleur, in coming in with a team that there's always expectations?
Yeah.
Franchise quarterback, one of the best ever, according to Chris, and I can't disagree with that. Chris says the best player ever at any position. What's the biggest
I probably
challenge?
drove that price up a little.
What's the biggest challenge? They already have him under contract. What's the biggest challenge, though, from your perspective in having the new coach go in and get everything out of this team right away?
Yeah. I think it's probably what would be due for every new head coach. I mean, Matt's never been a head coach before, so there's just so many things pulling at you. I know as a first-time GM, like the one thing that I went through is you tried to protect your scouting time because that's what I had done all my life, and all of a sudden people were pulling at that. So I think for him, I think it's going to be a bit of a big challenge is just make sure he's protecting his football time because obviously we hired Matt because he has an excellent background in not only developing quarterbacks but offensive football, and that's really important. So he's going to get pulled in a lot of different directions, even by me sometimes, and he's got to make sure he protects that.
We didn't get a chance to talk to you at the scouting combine. We haven't talked to you since you hired Matt LaFleur. But in the process of interviewing coaches, talking to coaches, what was the moment where you knew this is my guy?
Obviously, we did a lot of background work, and I'm talking to different people who had coached with him, worked with him in the past, and that was all really, really positive. When you get to sit down one-on-one in an interview situation and then talk about philosophy's vision for our football team, it really started to come into play, like his ability to command our team. I think we were very aligned in kind of how we wanted to build this thing. And I think just as we went through that process, that interview process, he kind of stood out above the rest.
How do you project, though, a guy's ability to kind of take over a locker room the way a head coach needs to? If he's never been a head coach and you're basing it on face-to-face interview, what is it you look for that makes you think this is a guy who can walk into that locker room and take charge?
Obviously, a lot of it is the people you talk to have worked with him for years, and some of the people and players that he's been involved with. But I think also, there's a confidence I think you present yourself with in an interview. It's a little small part of it, but it's important. And I think that as we went through all the checklists, I think he just kind of he kept surfacing as the guy that looked like the right guy to lead our football team.
All right, last one for me, because I know you got more important things to do. Maybe not as cool as this, but more important things. I mean, are you ever amazed at the every 4 or 5 weeks, the Aaron Rodgers leadership thing? Like, you know, just what are ex-players, whoever it may be, it just always seems to kind of resurface itself.
Yeah.
Do you get sick of hearing it?
I do. I honestly pay a lot of attention to it, but when you've been around Aaron for as long as, you know, I've been around him and seen his leadership qualities, it just doesn't make any sense. You know, I don't know if it's, you know, people trying to be relevant or what, but it's
Seems like haters, like jealous people a lot of the time.
I mean, everybody leads in different ways,
right.
But yeah, obviously I've been fortunate enough to see him lead in some tremendous ways, and it's not a concern of mine.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Well, the season will be here before you know it. Sources say that it may be the Packers and the Bears getting things started. Week 1, Thursday night, 100th season of the NFL, 101st season for the Green Bay Packers. I still don't know how that worked out. You're older than the NFL.
I know exactly how
You're right. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, but it's great seeing you as always. Yes. Congratulations on your success and all the best moving forward.
Thanks, guys.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.